Why do firemen wear red suspenders? To hold up their pants. A blonde calls this rural fire department all excited. She says, "Come quick, my barn's on fire, my barn's on fire." The dispatcher says, "Calm down now, just tell us how to get there." She says, "Oh, don't you have that big red truck anymore?" A fireman walks into a bar and waves the bartender down. The fireman asks for a beer and offers to tell a joke about policemen. The bartender replies in a cocky tone, "Look guy, I'm a retired cop, that guy shooting pool is a cop, and that guy 2 seats down from you is a cop. You still want to tell that joke?" The fireman says, "No, I don't want to have to explain it 3 times. A fire broke out in a 6-story apartment building last week in a nearby town. A blonde, a redhead, and a brunette escaped the flames by climbing up onto the roof. When the fire department arrived, they got out a blanket, held it up, and the chief called out to the brunette to jump into the blanket. The brunette jumped. As she was falling, the firefighters pulled the blanket away and she landed on the street like a brick. The firefighters then held the blanket back up and the chief told the redhead to jump. "No way. I saw what you did to my friend," exclaimed the redhead. "I am sorry," said the chief. "My wife was a brunette and she divorced me. I just don't like brunettes. We have no problems with redheads. Jump, it's your only chance." So the redhead jumped. On the way down, the firefighters pulled the blanket away and she hit the pavement like a tomato. The firefighters again held up the blanket and the chief told the blonde to jump. The fire was getting worse and her only chance of survival was to jump. "No, I am not jumping. I saw what you did to my 2 friends. I'm sorry," said the chief. "I explained what happened to the brunette and when the redhead jumped we were a little distracted. It will not happen again, just jump." The blonde thought for a moment. "Okay, I'll jump. But first I want you to lay the blanket on the ground, back away, and then I'll jump into it." A fire started on some grassland near a farm in Missouri. The fire department from the nearby city was called to put the fire out. The fire proved to be more than the small city fire department could handle, so someone suggested that a rural volunteer fire department be called. Though there was doubt that they would be of any assistance, the call was made. The volunteer fire department arrived in a dilapidated old fire truck. They drove straight towards the fire and stopped in the middle of the flames. The volunteer firemen jumped off the truck and frantically started spraying water in all directions. Soon they had snuffed out the center of the fire, breaking the blaze into 2 easily controllable parts. The farmer was so impressed with the volunteer fire department's work and so grateful that his farm had been spared, that he presented the volunteer fire department with a check for $1,000. A local news reporter asked the volunteer fire captain what the department planned to do with the funds. "That should be obvious," he responded. "The first thing we're gonna do is get the brakes fixed on that stupid fire truck." During a big fire downtown, the firemen were having a bit of trouble. A woman was stuck on the 4th floor with her baby. The firefighters instructed her to toss the child out the window, under which they had placed a net, but the mother refused. Things looked grim until a tall, well-built man burst through the crowd and shouted to the women. He said that he was a professional football player and that he could catch the baby safely. After a few minutes more of reassurances by the man, the mother finally let the child drop. The football player made a breathtaking catch and everybody cheered. At that moment the man suddenly raised the child high in the air, spiked it on the ground and yelled, "Touchdown." Why do truckies cut holes in the roof of houses on fire? So they can see real firefighters working? My son, when he was 4, explained to me what a firefighter was. He said, "A firefighter is someone who is a hero and cares more about other people than he does anything else," so I asked him to explain a police officer to me. He said, "They are the ones who eat donuts and yell at people to slow down." A police officer, though scheduled for all-night duty at the station, was relieved of duty early and arrived home 4 hours ahead of schedule, at 2 in the morning. Not wanting to wake his wife, he undressed in the dark, crept into the bedroom and started to climb into bed. Just then, his wife, sleepily, sat up and said, "Honey, would you go down to the all-night drugstore on the next block and get me some aspirin? I've got a splitting headache." "Certainly, honey," he said. Feeling his way across the dark room, he got dressed and walked over to the drugstore. As he arrived, the pharmacist looked up in surprise. "Say," said the pharmacist, "I know you, aren't you a cop? Officer Fenwick, right?" "Yeah, sure." "So?" said the officer. "Well, what the heck are you doing all dressed up like the fire chief?"